My name is Nick Martin. I'm the founder and CEO of TechChange, and thrilled to welcome you here today to our live innovation showcase. What we're going to do here is we have 6 incredible innovators, Iryna, Nasrat, Michael, Ayan, Shannon, and Mohammad. They are the finalists from a large list of innovators who are here today to showcase their innovation. So they're each going to have 5 minutes to do that. And then you all who are out there watching, you're going to vote on your favorite innovations. So I did a quick check earlier today, and there are already 180 votes in. So after you watch all 6 of these, that is your chance to weigh in and tell us which one is your favorite. So I'm going to give each person here 5 minutes. I'm going to stick to that harsh deadline, and I've got my guitar here in the background, which I'm going to bring out to play as we approach that 5-minute mark. Then hopefully we'll have some time for some Q&A with the audience. Now, each of these innovators also has a discussion forum in the Innovation Showcase where you at any point can go over and ask them some questions if we don't get to it in today's live Q&A. So that's our plan. Looking forward to having your input. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Iryna, who is working on smart pollination and plant protection services, and is going to tell us some fascinating things about bees. Over to you, Iryna.
Hi, hello. Thank you, Nick, for such an introduction, and really looking forward to hear how you play your guitar, but I'll try to keep it like quick and condensed information. Hello, everyone. It's truly my pleasure to be here and present USAID's agro innovation that can change the way we use pesticides, actually, how we can decrease the use of pesticides, and at the very same time to increase yield, both in Ukraine, and here's our ambition even globally. So today I'm proud to showcase innovative method of transfer for organic plant protection means with the help of bees. And yes, you've heard it really correctly. It's really, I will be talking about those like honeybees that we normally know as honey producers. So I guess everyone likes honey, but bees more than just the honey. So USAID's AGRO program piloted this innovative approach in August 2020. So we have fresh data. An experimental bee family pollinated 3 hectares of strawberries on our demonstration spot and transferred biological plant protection means at the very same time. And it's impressive, right? Isn't it? Because bees are small, but they can not only pollinate, but just to protect flowers at the very same time. And now a few words about how, because that was my first question, honestly, when I've heard about this initiative from my colleagues. So flying bees actually transfer a special biological means of plant protection. And here is the key word here is biological rather than chemicals directly to flower. The powder, biological powder clings to their exoskeleton at the exit of the hive, and then it's basically being transferred by the bee to the flower itself, where it's being activated due to the moisturing process. And I will not keep you busy with all the details how we built this hive. Probably I'll keep it to the Q&A session. So I'll tell you a bit about the results. So due to the use of bees for the transportation of biological fungicides, we reduced heavy pesticide use basically to 0 on our demonstration plant. At the very same time, we decreased emissions in the atmosphere from the operation of equipment. Again, 0 because no tractors were like riding all around and spreading pesticides. And even more, adding to that, we saved up to $50 per pesticide procedure financially for 3 hectares of strawberry. Just to give you a comparison, $50 here in Ukraine in local currency is about 1,300 hryvnias, which is basically more or less half of the average salary. A bit less, but still, just to give you the understanding about the $50 here in Ukraine. On the other hand, our preliminary calculations show that the 50% yield growth on strawberries. We are pretty much in calculation still, just because the strawberry season here in Ukraine is still ongoing, but the agronomist of our demonstrations plot is really fascinated, and you can check this in video and in our presentation because we have this confirmation documented, and he already like spoke on camera, so please go and check our innovation in video. And again, it is win-win in all possible ways, for farmer, for beekeeper, for berry consumer, because we eat this, and for environment. So we're really proud to feature this innovation here today for you and like globally. And just not to keep you busy, as a conclusion, I will just emphasize that pollination means yield, like 2/3 of our yield depends on bees. Yield means food, and food means life. And actually, quality food means healthy life, which is highly important currently within the like current situation with the health. And reducing pesticide use and cultivating smart bee pollination, and at the very same time, protection services, we reached both yield growth and quality. And which is more, we protected our, at least at our demonstration spot, but we think to expand globally our environment from pollution. So honeybee families proved its potential in transferring biological fungicides, thus replacing heavy pesticide loading on plants, however, protecting them from diseases as our demonstration showed. So go and check out at Innovation Showcase, and I'm ready to address your questions. And thank you.
Iryna, thank you so much, and I am now just excited to spend more time thinking about bees and honey. So this is fantastic to have your innovation here, and with that, we are going to move to our second innovation. Nasrat, you are up, and Nasrat, you are doing some incredible work, primarily in Afghanistan, working with artisans to help connect them to sell their handmade products in the US and Australian markets. So we're thrilled to have you join us to learn more about your innovation next. Over to you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you so much for the introduction, Nick. My name is Nasrat Khalid. I've spent the last 10 years doing international development, mainly in South Asia, a lot of time in Afghanistan. I am going to present the SID platform and yep, can you guys see my screen?
Looks good.
Yep. The problem we're trying to solve is that currently underdeveloped countries don't have access to the global e-commerce infrastructure, and people are not able to sell things. 10 of the most developed countries in the world have 90% of the global e-commerce being done. We try to solve that. We try to get the global underdeveloped countries into the global e-commerce infrastructure so they can sell their products and earn a good living. Our solution to that is our web and mobile platform, the SID platform, which does sourcing, product handling, partnership, and selling. And our mission is to create 10,000 jobs in Afghanistan and then move on to the second and the third country from there on, and hopefully the whole world. Our team is a global team. We're based in 5 countries right now and growing. We started in June 2018 after building the app and the platform, me traveling back and forth to Afghanistan more than 10 times, building a team of 20 people, going for COVID release for the artisans, and eventually launching in the US here in the Afghan embassy in the US, in DC, in Australia and Afghanistan as well. Is coming up next month. An example of our vendors, we have 14 vendors. One of them is Jama Design Center, a woman-owned business in Afghanistan that employs 60 women. They make clothing. There is also 13 other brands that do leather, carpets, bags, and many other things like that, embroidery and so on. We went through a validation round from September 19 to September 2020, where we built a custom supply chain that is built around the underdeveloped countries. And that includes getting last mile deliveries to customers in the US and all over the world, but also picking up the products in places like Afghanistan. We have a total revenue of $60,000 right now, sold more than 2,000 products. The platform is developed. It's a sustainable platform. We have 20 staff, and the platform pays for the 20 staff. And our main competitors are Amazon, Handmade, and Etsy. One of the biggest, our strength point is that we are not supported by any vendor, no USAID, no World Bank, nobody. This is a product that we have developed ourselves, and it hits 11 out of 17 SDGs, which is a pretty big feat for a project. This is our product flow. It's custom built. How do we get products out of Afghanistan into your houses, wherever you are? It goes through this flow. And yeah, if you want to go to the platform right now, seal.xyz, or download our app, you can buy these products directly from Afghanistan and help us grow. For those who vote for us, they can use I voted in SID-W coupon code, and you'll get 15% off. Thank you so much.
Amazing to hear, Nasrat. And I'm just reading a comment here from Stephanie, who's saying she remembers carting her handicrafts from her Peace Corps days back to the United States and 30 years ago. So she's just thrilled to see that there's now kind of infrastructure and supply chain and thought being put into this. And huge kudos to you that you figured out how to do this without any support or donor involvement. So wonderful to hear your innovation. Next up, we have Michael. Michael, you are going to be talking to us today about promoting mental health and resiliency. And you've got something called Vitalk that you're going to share with us. So Michael, over to you for your innovation.
Great. No, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm calling here from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I'm going to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. Sec. Great. So as you may or may not have heard, Brazil was hit pretty hard with the COVID epidemic. We're, I think, second in the world in number of deaths. This is affecting particularly the frontline healthcare workers. I think around a third of all nurses who passed away during COVID happened in Brazil. And this is significantly affecting the mental health of healthcare workers. And we know that if a healthcare worker isn't well, how can they treat the most vulnerable populations that need their help, right? And so there's this really, really big challenge where Brazil, before COVID, was already a country with some of the highest anxiety in the world. Actually, it was the #1 in prevalence of anxiety in the world. And this is affects the so-called mental resilience of your workforce. And during COVID, anxiety skyrocketed, depression skyrocketed, specifically around healthcare workers. We saw a lot of post-traumatic stress. We saw a lot of other issues, and even with feelings of guilt and coping with the demand. Unfortunately, domestic abuse grew among nurses, which is kind of unfortunate. But the problem is that Brazil lacks healthcare mental health professionals, right? 5 to 10 times less per capita than in the US and Europe. So there's no exit valve. There's no way to do it. And it's because, a mental health therapy is very expensive and it's very difficult to scale. So my company, which has been working in this area of digitalization of healthcare for a while, decided to create a different solution, which is Vitalk. It's a virtual health assistant. Her name is Vicky. She's a chatbot. You can download her on an app on iOS and Android. And healthcare workers can actually talk to her to try to discuss and resolve some of the mental health care issues that they have. And this is a project that we did originally with the Johnson & Johnson Foundation, and it was built with a huge team of psychologists, designers, and other healthcare professionals. The first step that Vicky does is she actually does a scan. So she will try to ask you a number of clinically validated questions for things such as depression, anxiety, burnout, and resilience. It's an interactive conversation. And then the result, you'll get actually an individualized result for what is your level of risk. And you will be sent to certain resources, either to seek psychiatric care or maybe you need to see therapy. So she'll actually help you identify the issue. Then what we will do is we actually aggregate that data, and we can help the organization understand what's happening. What are the departments that are most stressed and anxious, and what is causing that? We can actually do a number of different correlations and help understand what is actually happening. What are the structural reasons leading to these horrible mental health disorders that are affecting productivity? Then there's obviously the chatbot, right? We have hundreds and hundreds of conversations with Vicky, which are all based, which all use evidence-based psychoeducational exercises, all focused on promoting self-care. So, everything from helping sleep to dealing with abusive relationships to, dealing with loss and coping with stress and things like that. And then usually the chatbot user will choose a specific line. Could be less anxiety, better mood. There's a specific line related to COVID, and then the chatbot will sort of guide them. And the more that people speak to Vicky, our chatbot, the more personalized it becomes. And Vicky can guide people through mood tracking, cognitive restructuring, breathing exercises. There's hundreds of exercises that are constantly being created as we get more feedback from users. There's also on-demand conversations. There's an SOS button in case a person is going through certain problems. There's some resources that they can access, including a call line that they can call in case there's some kind of an immediate risk to the person's life. And then we also piloted another service, which is conversations with actual licensed psychologists. So we, along with the chatbot, you can actually also chat back and forth with a therapist. It's asynchronous, so you send a message, they'll respond back. But this method is actually a fifth of the price of traditional therapy. So all of a sudden, we've made mental health therapy much more accessible for a large part of the population. Now, just going to go back here. What have been the results so far? We've so far ran the initial pilot with about 5,000 workers. Our goal is to reach about 20,000 workers by the end of the year. We had some pretty scary results. We saw that actually about 71% of the healthcare workers had high or very high rates of anxiety, 48% with depression, and 77% with burnout, and 65% with low resiliency. We're seeing vast majority of healthcare workers really negatively affected. And this is directly affecting the job that they're doing. Now, the initial data that we got was quite interesting. We found that 83% of users described the experience as talking with a chatbot as actually very, very positive. And we originally were a little scared that we were simplifying the language too much, that, mental health is a complex, highly personal issue. Are we maybe downplaying it? Well, it turns out that about 92% said that they thought that the language was actually very appropriate and very, very helpful. And just to conclude, from the sample that we took, which was people that completed the checkup in the first month, and then what happened, 6 or 8 weeks or 12 weeks later, we did a pre and post. We saw that somewhere between 30 to 50% of users actually showed a strongly significant improvement in symptoms. Of course, we need to do more rigorous testing, control studies. That's part of the work. But it was very promising that this sort of app helped people out. So basically, we're going to be trying to grow this in Brazil, and we're looking to see how we can partner with others to bring this innovation outside of Brazil.
That's so exciting, Michael. And I mean, those statistics are terrifying that you shared about the need for this, but commend you and the team for this work. I know at TechChange, we're trying to build courses on COVID for frontline workers across the African continent, and mental health training and capacity building and awareness is just a vastly underserved topic. And so I'm really excited to see you doing this work in Brazil. Okay,
thank you.
Shifting gears, next into the tank. Dun, 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 dun. Some Shark Tank fans out there. We have my dear friend Ayan. Ayan, you are going to talk to us today about innovation in a fascinating subset in book provision. So I'm here to kind of learn from you about the issue in book supply chains, and why are you excited for this particular solution that you are working on? Ayan, over to you.
Thanks, Nick. Good to see you all, and thank you for organizing this. I'm here representing Creative and the USAID Afghan Children Read project. Happy to represent another Afghanistan innovation here on this panel. Um, when people think about supply chain, they generally think about, agriculture or maybe health. And education is not the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about supply chains. But funny enough, book supply is actually a large part of development and education programming. Education projects generally involve support to develop teacher and learning materials and actually print them and get them out, distribute them to students. And this is a costly exercise, and it is one that is filled with the issues. About half of the books, according to the World Bank, are wasted in a book supply chain, and 20% loss is very normal in sub-Saharan Africa, for instance. And we understand that in Afghanistan it might be worse. And in Afghanistan, much of the public book provision comes from direct funding from the U.S. government to the Afghani government. Now, there's lots of issues. In general, requisition of books is an inaccurate process. You're estimating, but most countries have just paper-based processes. So by the time you estimate, you put the numbers in, they go up the chain, and they're approved. It's been months, even potentially an entire year. And in a country which is dealing with conflict, there's a lot of movement of people, and so what this leads to is a large wrong allocation of books, which is an issue. So some places get more books, some places get less books, and students suffer. Also, generally, there's a lot of damage in the process for many reasons, and a large reason being corruption. So, this seems to be a problem that can actually be solved, because this is an information alignment, communication, and transparency problem. As a digital development practitioner, I'm careful about where digital solutions are appropriate, and I think this one is actually one in which they do shine. So the Afghan team actually, with the ministry and USAID, co-designed this solution that fits the needs of the process and is made for development, is open source, and they built basically a digital inventory system that digitizes this paper process and allows you very simply to basically, at different levels, whether it be a school level, district level, province level, central level, be able to digitize what you're receiving and what you're sending. That shows in inventory. So what I'm going to try to do is do a demo, because I was told that we shouldn't do live demos, and that's not how I roll. So let's try to do this. I'll try to keep it quick. Hopefully you're seeing my screen. So this is how it looks, and it looks like you log in. There's user manuals and so on. Once you get in, this account is set up as a provincial account, so I can see what are the packages that I have received, which ones are pending, and I can see the details of them. So the last package I received all the books. I can see what the books are, and the ones that in this case have not yet received this. This is 0 books. I can actually click receive, and it will. I can go ahead and basically enter the quantity of the books that I'm getting when I'm receiving. What that does is that automatically updates the inventory that I have of the books that are currently in my store. I can also go ahead and then send a packet. So if I have to send books out from the province level down to, say, a district or to a school, I can go ahead and fill that in. It automatically selects the schools and all of that based on prior parameters. You can also load a template. So for example, if I know I'm going to be sending Pashto materials, it can list what the different titles are and put in those quantities, and that automatically updates the inventory. So that's the gist of the system. You can actually, if at a school level, you can similarly distribute to students. You can enter what information goes in all, and you can request books, which is a pretty big deal. Which is schools can basically put in their information. The digitization makes the process significantly faster. I can approve requests. I can actually merge requests from different schools or districts and forward that on for approval. The fact that this is all digital allows you to really quickly actually visualize and look at and do some reporting. So really quickly, I'm going to try to do this. I'm selecting the date. Right now, this is in the solar Hijri calendar because that's used in Afghanistan. I'm going to switch it over to one that I'm more familiar with, and let's see if we can quickly run a report to show you how this might look like. Here we go. And there you can see, you basically can show you how many books you had by language, by district, by grades, by title, and there are other reports you can run around leakage. So we're really excited about this because this has not just been used by the project to actually go ahead and distribute books, but it's actually also been used by the ministry now, which has used it for about 500,000 books. They've accounted for 100% of their books, and they're now integrating it with their EMIS. This is huge because in Afghanistan, any books, anything you can do in this process saves millions of dollars. And I did some rough back of the envelope calculations yesterday, and oh, great! And I found that basically, if we make any dent into it, we're saving. I'm actually going to stop. The dog's barking at the back. I'll come to the questions. We'll answer more stuff later. Thank you.
I didn't need to get my guitar. The dog just started barking. I love that. But Ayan, seriously, what an incredible issue that you're tackling here, and so important. And I can imagine this being useful in a number of contexts beyond Afghanistan as well. And I love that you tested the live demo gods and came out victorious. So hopefully folks have a little bit of a flavor for how this works in practice, and excellent to see. Okay, we are going to shift gears now to our second to last innovator, Shannon. Shannon, you are here today to talk to us about automated decision support tools for forced labor risk reduction. So Shannon, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, and I know you have some slides that you're going to share with us as well.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here today and so honored to be considered for the Innovations Showcase. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the project I've been working on over the last year or so, which is a classifier, a decision support tool for the detection of forced labor risk at the firm level. So, hold on, there we go. I'm gonna make myself tiny. Okay. So the reason we embarked on this project was because we did a survey of the risk detection tools that were out there and found that some of them, while they're operating at the firm level, are relying on self-assessments, for instance. And so we found that mining companies had an unusually high degree of self-regard, or they're operating on data that's expensive and difficult to collect, like audit data. But audits are limited because they only find evidence of forced labor at about a rate of 1 in 15,000 audits. They're often mainly restricted to tier 1 suppliers, and they don't consider the sort of holistic business environment that these businesses are operating in. So for instance, they're not considering, does this supplier have an unusually high degree of trade relationships for this industry, which might be an indication of sort of poor operational practices or sort of sloppy management. And then there are other tools out there that provide high-level assessments of risk at a country level and maybe at an industry level, but it's not precise enough for corporate social responsibility officers to take meaningful action on that basis. There is about a $2 billion market for supply chain management risk estimation tools, and the market is growing. But I think what's hidden in these figures is that the environment is highly fragmented. So the coffee people are using the coffee supply chain management platform and risk detection, and the cocoa people are using something different. And what I really wanted to provide here was something that could be integrated as a baseline feature in any supply chain management platform. Our solution here was to collect data from independent sources that was mainly operational. So operational data would be things like the geographic location of all the suppliers, the number of trade relationships that can be detected in open source data. And there's another good one, but I'm sort of blanking on it because I'm a little stressed. So I took all of these data sources that are basically gathered as a matter of course by the government or by other sources, and don't rely on the participation of firms or their opinions of themselves. But you take this broad collection of messy data, and the major obstacle here is identifying where each firm has come up in each data source. So a major challenge here was entity resolution, recognizing businesses when they appear and clustering them across data sets to merge them with their subsidiaries and alternate identities. One assumption we made at this point was that for the purposes of forced labor risk detection, a subsidiary or an alternate identity, if it's operating under the same business purpose, it's the same entity. So for instance, if you're a cotton company, but there's a subsidiary making cotton elastic tapes, our assumption here is that if you're using forced labor in one of those enterprises, you're probably also using forced labor in another. So once that was finished, I was able to write a machine learning classifier. I tried a few options there, and I can talk about that later if people are interested. It's kind of nerdy. And now we have a system that allows risk classification. So if you input the features of prospective suppliers, it can categorize the relative risk of forced labor. Right now, the tool is about 85% accurate, and there's a high standard deviation on that. So what I can say confidently is that it's better than random guessing. And I think I can stop there, but I'm happy to take questions from the audience.
Shannon, wow. Two things. One, amazing work on the production of your presentation here. We loved seeing you go big and small. And on a serious note, it's just incredible to think about what you're doing here with machine learning to tackle forced labor and risk reduction. It's just a very creative use, and the amount of thought that you put into this is really incredible. And I really would encourage folks to go deeper and to explore your work in more depth. So thank you for that, Shannon. Our last innovator is Mohammad. And Mohammad, you are here to tell us a bit about the work you're doing in IDP camps to tackle learning, and more specifically kind of remote learning. So excited to hear from you, and excited to hear how feasible this work is in places where it is difficult to get even a basic internet connection. So Mohammad, over to you, and excited to learn more.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. So let me start what we do actually. We work in education, specifically we are working with IDPs. We help also local governance structure to restore formal education. Unfortunately, when COVID-19 came, billions of children sit at home without access to normal education. So just imagine with me the current time, okay, without internet and without electricity, how your life will be. Unfortunately, this was the situation for millions of children in the area where we work in Syria. And I believe it's the same for millions of IDPs around the world. Now we came with a lot of ideas to tackle this problem, like how we will deliver education to these children sitting at home. As you know, in the beginning of COVID, curfew and restriction of movement was very high until now in many places. So we came over a lot of ideas. Radio, it's not two-way communication. We also navigated like chatbots. People need internet and some technical skills. So what we did actually, we leveraged an existing technology. What's unique about this idea? Actually, it's simple, it's scalable and affordable. Like we actually leveraged an existing application called Rocket Chat. To simplify this, it's like your own private copy of Facebook. We installed it on local server. We installed it wireless in these camps, and no need for internet. Children at their tents are able to access virtual classroom. If you go to the showroom, if you see the video, you will see actually at the end of the video how happy was one of the children, explaining how she is now communicating with her teacher and her friends. Communicating this with emojis very simply. Unfortunately, children in IDP camps don't have electricity, don't have internet. Fortunately, with this solution, like they are able to access this local wireless, and it's powered actually by solar panel. Also, we tried a little bit to pilot this in intercity setup. I think people from Pakistan and India, Afghanistan can understand me when I say there is a lot of local vendors for internet. There is no like big corporates who provide internet. Sometimes there is local vendors in neighborhood area. So actually, a lot of private businesses also contributed their infrastructure to install such a solution. So without the need of the internet, which even if it's available, it's also expensive, a lot of local vendors contributed their infrastructure, and we tested this in also one of the cities where we work, and fortunately it worked. So it proved actually it could be a solution for even larger scale. This is why we called it also scalable. Yeah.
Mohammad, truly incredible work you're doing. And I love also the amazing emoji art that you brought with you here behind you. And I think you've done a phenomenal job in a lo-fi way of explaining an incredible project. So, okay, friends, we have about 10 minutes left. So what I think I'd love to have us do is I'd love to have each one of our incredible innovators here today take about 30 seconds and give us one big takeaway or one call to action that you want the people listening today to take away from work. What can they learn more? How can they get involved with your work? Really just a final call to action. And then if folks who are watching have specific questions for each one of our innovators, what I would suggest we do is I'm going to ask that we take those to the discussion forums where we have already an opportunity for you to ask those questions. And then each one of our innovators will find their way at their own leisure to go and answer those questions individually. So what I might do is, Ayan, I might start with you since you're right next to me here on the video feed, and give you 30 seconds to tell us, what's one thing you think people should know or walk away with here.
Awesome, thank you. I mean, I'm really excited about this because solving issues in book supply is actually a contribution to the triple bottom line. There's financial gains. There's obviously social returns in improving number of books per pupil and learning, and there's actually major environmental impact, which we don't have too much time to get into. But I did some back of the envelope calculations, and we could be saving equivalent of a Rock Creek Park in Afghanistan every year. So. I think what I would encourage people to do is to think about simple solutions that can be implemented, such as this, and to actually go on our page. I see the questions about access. We definitely have addressed that, and I'm happy to take those asynchronously. So please go ahead and look at that, and consider if something like this can be used in your project. If so, please feel free to reach out to us. I don't have any incentive like Nasrat did, financial incentive for you to vote for us, but thank you for attending, and I'll pause here. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ayan. So Iryna, you're next, and then Shannon, you are on deck. Iryna, you're 30 seconds to share whatever you'd like with the audience here.
What I want to mention is that sustainable development is about cooperation, and our B project really showed that without cooperation, we won't manage to reach any goals. So just cooperate, reach sustainable goals. Don't kill bees. And our demonstration showed that any bee suffered during the demonstrations. So I really, really call for farmers, for beekeepers, for producers, for consumers to cooperate and promote this initiative, given that it really meets the sustainable goals. Thank you.
Beautifully said, Iryna. So Shannon, I'm going to come to you next, and then Nasrat, you are on deck.
Sure. I guess what I would say is that although most businesses want to do the right thing when it comes to preventing forced labor in their supply chains, there are still 16 million people in forced labor in corporate supply chains today. And our prevalence estimates suggest that we're doing a very bad job of detecting them where they are. And so while this innovation, it's sort of business friendly and geared toward helping them eliminate risk for themselves, it's also, its primary goal is to help us get better at identifying those people who are being exploited at work.
Thanks so much for that, Shannon. So now over to you, Nasrat, and then Mohammad, you will take us home.
Yeah, hey, Ayan, the money doesn't come to me, it goes to the artisans. My only point here in the end would be that, you know, the world's biggest company right now, Amazon or others, are made by people like us. And I think giving the instead of, you know, pumping the money into the countries, if we can empower people to do whatever they do and get that value to the global world, we would be doing actual sustainable development. And we've seen that spending money on infrastructure there for long-term growth in 10, 15 years is a good thing. But if we can get them direct access right now onto whatever their areas are for development, that would give us quick results, and that would actually fix these underdeveloped countries.
Nasrat, thank you so much for that call to action. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Mohammad, and then Michael will wrap us up.
Yeah, so my takeaway will be like invitation for everyone to test the solution, because as I said, it's affordable and very simple. I added also what application we used in the showroom. Like it costed us just $4,000 to cover one of the biggest camp in northeast Syria, for example. Rocket Chat is available in, I think, 20 different languages. So anyone who work with IDPs, education, or any forum where they should communicate with each other, I will just invite them to test it and pilot it. It could be the solution.
Thanks so much, Mohammad. And again, excellent work you're doing here. So Michael, over to you for the last word.
Sure. Thanks so much, Nick, and thank you everyone. What a great conversation. So yeah, I mean, the world is heading towards a little bit of a catastrophe in terms of the healthcare workforce, right? I mean, we're going to have we already have huge shortages, and those shortages are just going to keep growing. Without healthcare workers, we're not going to have healthcare. So I think one of the things that we can do is we can really look at their mental health, their resiliency, keep them in the jobs longer and keep them productive. And I think, you know, one of the innovations we could look into is our digital tools. Obviously, they're not going to stop it. They're not going to stop it if the healthcare worker doesn't have the materials and if structural things aren't addressed. But I think we can get really creative in trying to solve this global problem.
Michael, thank you again for those amazing words. And I just want to recap for everybody who's watching just the amount of breadth that we covered in the last hour here. The power of bees for fertilizer, handicrafts in Afghanistan and supply chain innovations, transforming the book supply chain, mental health chatbots for healthcare workers in Brazil, using ML to tackle forced labor and reduce risk, and remote learning in IDP camps. It's pretty incredible, friends, to see that breadth of innovation happening. And if I can, I want to give all of you a round of applause. I like to snap actually when I'm on camera, but I like to snap and just say really tremendous work. I hope the folks who are joining here, yes, we have a competition here, but really all of you are doing phenomenal work in your respective capacities. And I want to acknowledge and commend you for that. And I know that the folks watching will share that with me. So a big thank you to all of you for joining us today, but also for the work you're doing. And a big thank you to all of you out there who watched us live and are joining. So Paul and I are going to copy over the links to each one of the individual pages in the discussion forum for this innovation showcase so that you all, I know some of you had questions we didn't get to, you all could just copy your questions over and follow up directly with each one of these incredible innovators and continue those conversations. So again, a big thank you to all involved here. And again, snaps for all. Thanks, folks.